So, you're looking to create digital art like these? Well, you've come to the right place. Today we're going to talk about how to use Daz Studio. Well, before you do anything, you have to download Daz Central. And inside Daz Central, you will be able to find out how to download Daz Studio. Now, I assume that you have a basic understanding of using a computer and downloading and installing a software. So I am not going to do that with you right here. After you've downloaded everything, you can turn on your Daz Studio and you should get a screen that looks like this. Kind of intimidating to begin with, I would say. But don't worry, I'm here to work things out with you. So you would see my mouse in the middle, it's highlighted, and on the top right corner here, you would see a little black box. That's the keystroke that I use. So if you want to follow along, let's do it together. So first thing first, let's take a look at the actual interface that they have. Now there are quite a lot of things that you will not be using in a, I would say, often basis. So I would go through the ones that you will normally use. So you will be using the top here, the bars on the top here. So a few of them are quite important, so I will point that out to you. So this right here is creating a new scene. So basically it clears out everything that you have. If you want to keep whatever you made, remember to save it before you clear them out. That's opening the file. And you have a merging. If you have two scenes that you want to merge together to put together, you would be using this icon right here. This would be the saving a file. Importing and exporting, well, we'll deal with that when we get a little more advanced. This one is adding a camera. Most of the time we will not be rendering through our perspective view, and we'll have to create a new camera. We'll deal with that in just a bit too. And then you'll get a few lights, different kinds of lights. You would mostly use spotlight, or I would mostly use spotlight. So I will deal with that again. If you haven't watched my 3-point lighting tutorial, you might want to go ahead and take a look at that once you get to lighting your scene. Then we have the primitives. Primitives are basically rough shapes that you can use. Very useful when you're in a jam sometimes. And this will create a group. Again, we'll deal with groups later on. And on here, these are the buttons that you really would like to use. Most of the time, actually, you use them quite often, because this one is a universal tool that would do rotating and tilting and then moving and scaling your models. So basically, the model that you see and things around the scene. This one basically rotated, only does the rotation. This one only does the translation, basically moving it in the 3D space. This one only does the scale, so making things bigger or smaller. Well, you won't be using the active pose yet, you won't be using the animate yet. This one, the surface selection tool, you will be using that. This one selects the surface of your models. So instead of selecting a part of the model, it just selects the surface. It's very useful whenever you need to change how something looks. Okay, and then you would also be needing this one. This one basically open up a render setting panel. Whenever you need to render something or you want to change the perspective of your view, you'll be using this one. And then that's the render button that you would use. Basically, you want to start making certain things. Now, on the left panel here, you would see a lot of different tabs. I am going to only talk about 3 of them. Okay, so this is the content tab. Oops. Content tab. Basically anything that you've installed in Daz Studio will be down here inside your content library. Again, it looks complicated. Mine looks complicated because I have a lot of things already. For you guys, they should be a little cleaner. The next tab that I would like to talk about would be the render setting. Yeah, remember the little button right here? Yeah, this one calls up the same window that we have here in the render setting. And finally, we have a simulation setting. So content library, render setting, simulation setting are the ones that we use most of the time. Top right hand corner, we have an auxiliary viewport. This one, again, not very often used. We would use the scene a little more often. Once I populate the screen right here, you would see different things coming up. So it makes selecting stuff a lot easier. Now, on this bottom panel down here, mostly use parameters, shaping, posing, and surfaces. Whoops. And surfaces. So these are the four that we would mostly use. Okay. So now that we have a kind of rough look at what we have in our viewport, let's start making something. So basically, we will usually start with having a person. So you would go down inside your Daz 3D library, and you would scroll down and you'll find people. And inside people, you should get a lot of different types of characters. So you have the Genesis 2, Genesis 3s, and Genesis 8 characters. So depending on which ones you downloaded, they're free. The Genesis 2, 3, and 8, all of them are free. You can actually go in and kind of mess around with that. But this time, we are going to get a Genesis 8 female. Now, don't worry if you see the screen go to black, because I don't want nudity on my channel. So, basically, whenever you load a Genesis 8 character, it will come out as naked, completely naked. Well, the character is actually naked, and I'm scrambling around just to find the basic clothing to put on her. This is the basic wear that comes with the Genesis package, the Daz Essential that you have. Where are they? They are inside Genesis 8 female. Well, for the female basic clothing, it's inside the Genesis 8 female. Inside clothing and then basic wear. Once you click it, you will see a lot of these, right? Wearables and then wardrobe and the rest. I just double click the basic wear too. That's what she's wearing right now. Okay, so now, basically, once you start up your character, you'll get a character in a T position. It has no pose whatsoever. And it has no hair. And that would be really bad if you really want a picture of her. She doesn't really look that good. So let's put some hair on her first. So inside, again, if you're using Genesis 8, so Genesis 8 female, go down to hair. You should get some basic hair. Right, I forgot which one was the basic one. I'll just randomly chuck in some hair on her. Usually you would see the icon hair on top. So for whatever hair that you choose, you would see the hair on the top right hand corner. So double click on one that has the hair on top, and the character will have the hair. The character will have the hair. Now, occasionally this might happen. You put on the hair, and then if you move the character, the hair kind of got loose. Well, that's because you did not put the hair actually on the character. You basically just put it in the air at the same place where her head is supposed to, where her head happens to be. So normally when you want to wear something, when you want a character to wear something, remember to first click on the character. Make sure that the character is highlighted. Then click on whatever you want it to wear. Now, for most hair, they should also have a material that comes with it. Now, what are materials? Materials basically change how that model looks. So for the hair, if I want to change the hair color, this is what you have to do. Go to your surface selector, right? You'll be using the surface selector on the top right here. Select the hair. In the scene tab, you would see that the hair is selected. Go to materials. I'm using the iRay engine, so basically I'll go to the materials iRay and I'll choose whatever color I want. So let's say I want the bluish yellow color. I double click on it and you would see the character now has bluish yellow hair. Now, what if I don't like the look of a sports bra and shorts? Same thing. Make sure you have the material selected, selected, and then you can select a sports bra. Now, this time, go back to clothing because you want to change the clothing, right? Inside clothing, basic wear, you will also see the materials right here. Okay, so open it up. Again, it will tell you they have 3D lights and then iRay. Again, depending on different render engine, you will have different choices. I will be using iRay throughout my tutorials, so I will choose iRay. Now, look for the actual clothing that she's wearing. So let's say this is the sports bra. So if I don't like it blue, I can change it to black. Rather simple. But if I don't like black, let's say I want something else, some other color. Ooh, that pink looks good, right? I can change it to pink. Okay, so knock yourselves out. I'll change the shorts too. So again, I can select the shorts right here, or I can go to the scene up here to select the shorts. Double click to change the material. Okay, so basically that's how you set up a character, how you want it to dress. Next, we might need some background. Now, how do we call up some backgrounds? Now, again, it all depends on what you bought. If you have only the basic free Daz Studio stuff, you'll be kind of stuck because you will be stuck with, I think, level 19. A scene that looks like this. So on the top right corner, you would see it's a set. Now, if I double click on the set, you would see that the whole set is loaded behind her. Now it's a good time for me to tell you how to navigate through this 3D space. Now I will close out the tabs around here so that we would see the actual character. Now, interesting thing, you would see that on the outside it looks kind of grayish, and in the middle it looks a little brighter. That's because this frame right here is where I would take the picture of her. Basically, the computer will only render the light part in the middle. How do I change that? Well, very simple. You go back to the render setting, click all. Inside the dimension preset, there is the active viewport. If you click on active viewport, when you render, the computer will render whatever you see. Whatever you see. But normally I like to frame my pictures with just the HD quality. Like right there. So anything that's on the side that's a little grayish are not going to be rendered. So anything inside that white box is going to be rendered. Now, how do I navigate through this 3D space? There are quite a few ways. On the top right hand corner here, you will see a lot of buttons. You will be using most, if not all, of these buttons. Okay, so let's take this cube for example. This is the cube that shows you which side you're looking at. So front would be the front side. You can actually move it to look at the left side, and if you click on it and move your mouse, then you can see her back, you can see her right. Now you would see there is nothing on this side of the wall because, well, that's how the model is, right? And then you come back to the front. Now, of course, you can look from the top down, or you can actually look up from the bottom, which is nothing because the floor is blocking everything. Okay, now if you want to really quickly go from a side view to the front view, you can actually go to front, just click it once, and it will automatically push you back to the front view. Now, the icons on the right here are very similar to this box. So the very top one basically allows you to just rotate around the character that you have selected. This cross thing allows you to move along the surface that you're at. So moving up, moving down, moving left, moving right, right? Depending on how you're positioning your camera using your rotation tool. This magnifying glass is very self-explanatory, right? It just zooms in and zooms out. This button is a lifesaver, right? Because if you want to concentrate and rotate on certain things, let's say I want to rotate around the column 2, I can select the column 2. Again, usually I would use the surface selector and then press this. Basically, it would aim the camera to this, whoops, to this bar right here, to this bar right here. And now I would rotate around this bar instead. Okay, now might not be what you want right now because you really want to look at your character. So again, how are we going to go back to our original character? Well, just click on the character that you want your focus to be on, and then click this aim button again. Most likely you'll be cast out behind some wall. Use the zoom tool to zoom back in, and most likely you will get back to your character. Didn't do it. Didn't like me. Okay, well, let's find our character first. There we go. Okay, let's use it. Find our character again. Aim at it. And there we go. Comes right back. Now, how do we position the character now? Well, inside the character there are lots of joints. It's going to be hellish if we kind of move everything. So, let's just first of all take a look at how we can move the character around the frame first. So, if you click the character, again on the right side, see my mouse, and then choose the tool that we have here, the translation tool. So basically it allows you to move your character up, down, left, right, forward and backwards. You can rotate her. Whoa. Well, Control Z to go back. Or you can even scale her. Make her bigger or smaller. Okay, depending on how you want to do things. Now, for all the body parts, if you click on any of the body parts, let's say her pelvis, for example, you can also use the rotation tool to move each of their body parts. Now, there is a limit. I'm not going to teach you how to cancel the limit just yet because it might be it's very easily messed up. You can easily mess up your character that way, even though you can reload it and everything. But if in the middle of it and you don't know what you're doing, then it might be a little hard to get back. So I really don't want to teach you that just yet. But it's very detailed. You can see that inside your female character, the character is rebuilt in very great detail. So for the thumb, you can actually move each of the joints of her thumb. So let's move in a little bit and take a look. So you can see that I can move her thumb, the first joint, the second joint, and even the third joint at the tip. So, knock yourselves out posing every single joint that she has, right? But if you are interested in not spending too much time on that, again, you can always go back to your content library. And again, inside people, Genesis 8 female, right? The character type that you've chosen, there should be a pose folder. Now, inside the pose folder, you should get some really basic poses. Now, for me, I have way too much poses, poses that you don't really need. But if you go inside the poses, you can actually find, let's just find one, simply standing. And for the female, you can actually have her pose as anything, right? Just choose your pose. So the pose basically help you move all the joints to the place where your pose is supposed to be, making life a little easier for you. But after that, okay, let's get my screen back. After selecting a pose, now you might want to choose to do something like that, let's say. Right, forearm, we can twist the forearm a little bit. And then move that joint like that. There. So you can pose your character in after you've used the pose. Okay? Now, finally, if we want to take a picture of this, so if we really want to render, if we say, oh, this is good enough, I want to take a picture of it, there is a few things that you want to pay attention to before you even do that. So, number one, you want to preview it. How do you preview it? Well, first, you see this little bulb right here? You might not see the bulb, but there is a little triangle down here. Click on this triangle. You would have different ways of previewing your character. Now, you would not be using a lot of them just yet. You will be using texture shaded, which give you this look. You will also be using iRay a lot. iRay is the actual render engine that I would normally use, and this basically gives you a preview of what you should be getting from a render. Now, it would be a little rougher, but usually it looks pretty good. And you can see that, oh, my head got chopped off and things like that. So I can actually move my camera a little bit so that it frames her a little better. Now, just like holding on to a camera, actually. So if we add a camera and copy the perspective view. So basically by copying active view, we're having the camera take a look at what we are seeing in the perspective view. We accept that and go to the camera. So here, go to the camera. This is exactly what you would see from a camera. Now, for some cameras, you can turn on the thirds guide so that it would be easier for you to position your camera and make the composition look better. It would be down here. You can see that there is the show third guide. So you can see the third guide. Don't worry, the third guide won't be in the picture. It's just there to help us frame it a little better. So let's say we frame her this way. Once we got it and we thought, this is a good picture, I would like to take a picture of this. What would you do? Well, we would just go up to here, press render, and the computer would go on and do its magic. This is the picture that we rendered. Now, you would want to save this. Of course, you have a lot of different choices. I usually use PNG. Because occasionally I will not have a background and then I will add the background later on. And then you can choose which folder you go to. Now, I think as default, it's this little interesting icon right here. I usually change it to this folder so that I can choose which folder I would put my picture in. So for example, I'm just putting it inside, let's say, let's add one here, right? Tutorial. Ooh. And then we'll select this folder, select folder, and then we'll give a name to the actual picture. So for example, tutorial basic. Like I said, I would usually choose PNG and hit save. And voila, it's done. Your picture is saved in that folder. And you're ready to do anything else, right? Any other picture that you want. Well, we're at the end of our tutorial. So here comes the homework. I would like you to go home And go ahead, fire up your Daz Studio and create one render of your choice. Make it whatever you like, wear whatever you like, do whatever pose you like, but render one picture and show us how well you did it. Okay? So that's it for now. I'll hope to see you very soon. If you like this tutorial, remember to hit like and subscribe. Of course, I will appreciate it if you also support me on Patreon.